Hi and welcome to my channel. I'm Nicola and I'm in my second year of growing cut flowers. I want to do all of this as economically and productive as possible, and obviously getting beautiful flowers at the end of it to grow into, to put in my house and share with friends. So if you have the same goals, then please stay tuned, watch the videos and see whether we can learn together. Hi, today you find me in the cutting garden. It's looking a bit rough for after the winter, so I thought I would give it a tidy up, ready for all of the spring sowings. It's a bit chillier than I was expecting, so I'll need to get going quickly so that I can warm up. But the plan is to end up with something like this. The plan is to cover up the beds with this horticultural weed control. This bed I've obviously done. I did it a week or so ago. This bed has got my perennials in. There has been some either cat or rabbit activity in there, so I need to do something about that. I'm hoping that this will stop the rabbits, which I didn't realise we had until last year when they dug up all the edges to the beds, so I need to sort that out. So I'm hoping this will work along with the weed control. That side is pretty good, but it is completely taken over with thistles. You can't see it at the moment. Well, actually we've got a little one coming up there, but this is where I had my dahlias last year, and I was constantly, every week, plucking out thistles. So I don't really want to cover that up with the weed control, even though it would be controlling the weeds, because they were so strong they might be pushing it up, and I don't want to bother with that if I've got perennials in here. So I'm planning on moving the achillea that is over there into this bed, so this will be a perennial bed. So this will remain as is. This has got all of my tulips bulbs in, so I can't really weed this at the moment, unfortunately. The reason why it's so weedy, I think, is because of my composting technique. But this old compost before I started my new bins, and I think it's full of couch grass and weeds and what have you. That's what I'm guessing. So it's really quite bad, but I don't want to. I might weed through this, but I certainly can't put the weed covering on at the moment. And then this bed's going to be for dahlias. So once the tulips are finished, I'll transplant it with dahlias and I'll put the weed control there. This one will be for the spring sowing, so certainly this side, what is it? It's not honesty, sweet rocket. So it flowered last year, so I'm just leaving it to see whether it flowers this year. We shall see. But there's no point digging it up if we're going to get a flower off it, seen as at the time when most of the things will not be flowering. So we'll see what happens with there. As I say, these are all my achillea, which were absolutely lovely. They were sown last year, so all of this came from last year. Had lots of flower heads by the end of the season. Didn't get anything much in the early part of the season. And as I say, I think I'm going to transplant it over in the other bed and maybe spread it through the garden a bit as well, because it was lovely. At this end of the bed, so this is the bed that I'm going to work on today pretty much. This end of the bed, I have some foxgloves down the bottom in amongst the weeds. I have some feverfew here. I did have some rudbeckia, which I thought was perennial. But it would seem not. I think the frost has killed it. It may be a tender perennial. Yeah, if we look here, they're the flower heads of what they were. So this will that corner there is definitely the shadier part in the summer, so that's why the foxgloves, and I've got some aquilegia in there, so I will weed through those, but I won't, because they're already planted. I don't think I'll cover them up. I'll see. It's not, because it's so cold, I may not cover those up. I'll leave them as they are rather than disturbing them. I think that may change, as you will discover. I change things a lot. So yes, so this needs to be weeded and sorted out. So let's get going. So, ooh, it's colder than I thought. So I just thought I would point out that I'm not this, well, I am untidy, but this bed has been hoed multiple times since I put the compost down. So it grew grasses, not this grass, grasses, Amimagus, Dorcas, and the remains of the zinnias last year. So it was highly productive. At the end of the season, I got rid of the flowers that were finished, so all of the backside was removed, and I put down a layer of compost. Now this compost was made, as I said earlier, from the previous year's previous year, which was when I wasn't really following a good practice on creating compost. So the weeds we have are a lot of sticky buds, a lot of couch grass, which I'm not keen on. I'm hoping that I can get rid of. In theory, putting the weed membrane down should prevent it. So me hoeing this up should be irrelevant, because the blocking out the light should kill the weeds in the first place. But because I have this weed problem, I've always had a weed problem, especially with the annuals. I'm just doing belt and braces and doing both. So I am going to hoe it with my trusty hoe, which this one here. So it's a double-sided hoe. So actually, I feel that it does double the work. Sharp on this side and this side, so I just can rub it up and down, and it gets it both ways. I found this is a really useful tool. But as I say, in theory, I shouldn't need to do this. It was completely weed-free in, let's say, September, October time. I have hoed it since then, because weeds came through and they're still come back. So this is, I'd rather not have the plastic weed membrane down, but needs must. And so that's what I'm planning on doing, and why I'm planning on doing it. So let's get cracking. The cardboard that is in the middle, I put that down last autumn as well, as part of the weed control. That's going to be my path. So I'm creating 2 beds either side. Last year I had them going this way, but I kind of think I get more bed space if I have one, and it was just annoying having to keep going backwards and forwards. So that's my plan for this year. Yep, I think I actually need to get weeding now. Before I finally get weeding, this was a no-dig bed. So originally, at the start of last year, I put cardboard down, put a load of compost on, garden compost, prior to growing everything, to suppress the original set of weeds. So the beauty of, one of the good things about no-dig is that you should be able to walk on it. It's not like you're compressing soil. So I'm on a clay soil structure, so really it would be a no-go of standing on your beds. But no dig, apparently you can walk over it, because the compost the structure is good enough to do that. Now, I don't intend to walk over it a lot, but I also don't intend to put any more compost on, because that had that in autumn. So obviously weeds can grow in it, so hopefully plants can as well. So that's why I'm walking all over it. If you're questioning, it's no dig, apparently you can. Okay, I have hoed the first half off, and they look bad. I'm going to rake off everything and see where we are. You don't need to be looking at my backside while I'm doing that. It's all surface weeds generally. The perennials will still be there if there are any. There was perhaps some dandelions. I don't think there was anything really. It wasn't as bad as the other bed. There was maybe a bit of nettles, which hopefully that's resolved. I think I never saw any sign of it when I was hoeing this. So I will rake this off and get ready to put the membrane down. I might deal with the bottom, see whether I'll transplant the foxgloves and aquilegia. I haven't weeded that end particularly because I didn't want to get them without me noticing, so I wanted to be a bit more careful there. So we'll sort this out and I'll be back soon. Okay, we're done pretty much. I'm not going to be too fastidious because we're going to be putting the cover on, so it should block out the light, and so weeds should be stopped from growing. Also, the debris, what looks like that, so the remains of the cardboard, the remains of any leaf should rot down and actually do the soil some good. So I'm not, as I say, not going to be too fastidious to make sure everything's clean. I think after weeding the bottom end, I am going to dig up the feverfew, which is in this corner, and the rudbeckia that was there actually does seem to have survived. So yes, it was frost damaged. It is a perennial, so it should die back. And I can see new growth on it. So I am going to move that feverfew and the rudbeckia over into that bed when I move, pointing and you can't see, over into the bed that is going to have the achillea, so the perennial bed. So I have a full strip along here which will be annuals. So it'll save messing around there. So that's quite a good strip because it does get the sun here, whereas that corner there definitely is shady. So I will keep the foxgloves in there and the aquilegia, although they may spread there. And again, because of the weeds, there are a lot of sticky buds and there were some nettles. So I will, I think, dig those up and replant them into the membrane, the weed membrane, which will be interesting because I don't know how easy that's going to be sown. So it will be good to know what I'm going to face when I'm sowing my, planting my seedlings in there. So that's going to be a good exercise. So as of now, I think I'm going to go and get some lunch, let the birds feed off whatever worms I have disturbed. And there's a little robin that keeps popping up every time I go to the compost heap. The robin's here again waiting. So I will let them have a little bit of feast while I have some lunch, and we shall lay the membrane this afternoon. On the way to and from the compost heap, I've noticed that the apricot is just about to burst into blossom. For February, I think that's quite early, so whether that means we'll have any fruit by the end of the year, who knows, but it'll be beautiful. Right, back after lunch. I have dug up the rudbeckia and feverfew, transplanted them over into the new perennial bed. I'm going to leave the foxgloves and aquilegia there and leave them open, I think, because there didn't seem to be much weeds and it's quite a small area, so I should be able to keep on top of that. And I kind of wanted to encourage self-seeding there, because I really struggle with getting Aquilegia to seed, although it seeds like a weed throughout the garden, and foxgloves similarly. So I am going to keep those there, let them see if they can self-seed. I kind of feel if the weed membrane is in place, then obviously that's going to restrict any self-seeding. So I'm going to leave that bit open, cover everything else. This is a 2 meter width roll of weed membrane. It's possibly a mistake because it would have been easier if it was in 1 meter, so I didn't have to cover it. But I'm kind of thinking that it's not going to be sufficient to cover both areas, but I'll have a double layer in the path, so that gives it extra protection for going up and down. That's my thinking. It is what it is. I'm not going to cut it. I've got loads. It was a 75 metre roll. I've got loads, so I'm not going to be too bothered about it. When I bought the roll, one of the reasons I bought it is it came with free pins. So they have proven really useful in keeping it down and close to the ground rather than having bricks everywhere or whatever else. So these are really good. If I can remember or find the link, I'll put it in the description below, but these are well worth it. So let me just crack on for a bit and see where we get to. So I'm working from the straight edge and then lay it over. I can guarantee I didn't cut the edges straight. So this bit, the uncut edge, is obviously straight. The edge of the bed is straight. So that's where I'm starting from, and we'll take it from there. I'll be back shortly. Right, oh, messes with your hair. Right, we are done. Can you get a good picture of that? There. So that should hopefully keep me weed free, and I can hopefully plant into it without too much problem. We shall see as the season goes on. First time using it, so it's all a learning curve. My final job of the weekend is to move the Achillea to the new perennial bed, where I transplanted the Rudbeckia and the Feverfew yesterday. Now I've been flip-flopping between whether I should keep them where they are and transplant the other ones into this same bed, or whether to move them, and I decided I would move them, which could be disruptive, but I am discovering a lot of couch grass in it, and let me show you. So within the Achillea, we've got all of this grass that is embedded within it. Now these were all seeds, so it's not that I've transplanted it and it's there, so it's in the bed already. So I'm hoping that if I cover this with the membrane, the weed membrane, if I cover this with the weed membrane, that might eventually kill away the couch grass, whereas the bed over there, which has got thistles in it, I think the membrane might not work because the thistle will be so strong, but I may be able to tackle that by pulling out each thistle as it comes through. So that's my thinking, that bed over there won't get covered with the membrane, and I will attack the weeds as and when I see them. This bed here will have the membrane on, and hopefully it will clear up the couch grass with a bit of time. So I need to get on and dig this all up. So I've moved some of the Achillea into the bed that I suggested, and I've covered over the bit of bed that was cleared with some weed membrane. It was a bit that was left over from yesterday, which conveniently fits the bed exactly, apart from the Achillea that's left at the end. Let me just show. So if there was no Achillea left in that end there, then this membrane would fit. So my plan is I'm going to be doing a new rose bed and peony bed in the next few weeks. I can put the Achillea in there because as soon as you pick it up, it's spreading by kind of its roots, so it's going to do a good ground cover, which is what I'm going to need in that new bed because it's currently covered in weeds. So let me show you what happened with the other, where I've transplanted everything else. So my perennial bed now looks like this. So we've now got the feverfew, rudbeckia and Achillea in there. And then right at the back there, well, apart from the rubbish heap that looks like that, that's going to be a new bed when I get round to that. But there's raspberry canes in the back there, and we have black currants there, and a few bits of odd perennial. So eventually I'm going to plant more in that blackcurrant bed, but not today. So I'm quite pleased. I've got this bed filled up. All of these beds, these two beds are ready. This has got tulips and that's ready. The bit that you can see, the bare soil, will be a path. And once the tulips are complete, I will get a new piece of membrane, and that should, I believe, cover the whole area that's there. So the middle bit will actually be the section here to there, about 50 centimetres, will be the path. So that's covered, and that bed over there is done. So I'm really pleased that we're now ready for the spring sowings as and when I get round to doing those. Thanks for watching, and hopefully you'll join me again the next time.